How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. Delighted to have you this fine Friday. I hope the weather's great. You got blue skies where you are. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, as always, text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, all that fantastic stuff. We have begun the invasion of Memphis. And full disclosure here so that you know I know of which I speak. My sister and brother-in-law live in Memphis. Now, my brother-in-law, Paul, was a Master Chief of the Navy. They spent most of their marriage actually in Portsmouth, Virginia. They moved for a time down to Rockport, Texas, where my middle niece was born in Corpus Christi. She's now a teacher in Starkville, Mississippi, and my sister and her husband he was reassigned to Memphis. And I know what you're thinking, because it's the same thing I thought. Why do we have a Navy base in Memphis on the Mississippi River? Are we guarding them? Well, no, actually. It's actually a weapons depot. Memphis, it's Millington is where it's actually located, and there's a naval support facility there, and so they retired up there to Brighton, Tennessee, little town just north of Millington. We get up there occasionally to visit them, though not enough. And my niece is a nurse at a hospital in Memphis. She's a labor and delivery nurse. She tells me the story that the nurses who work the overnight shift will sometimes come out and their cars are on blocks and their tires are gone. Criminals coming into the parking garages of the local hospitals and overnight and stealing tires, which also gives you a sense of just how little the local hospital values their nurses when the local hospitals aren't providing security. But I digress. Memphis has been a war zone for a while. It has been essentially a third world hellhole. It's not good. I have friends of mine who live in the Memphis area as well, in Germantown, some who live in Memphis proper, and they have horror stories. Memphis is not a good setup. The county mayor is opposed to the National Guard invading Memphis. The local mayor of Memphis, the city proper, has said, bring them on in. Memphis, we are told, has had a dramatic drop in murders. It had been the murder capital of America. It's had a dramatic drop in murders. Do you know how dramatic the drop is in murders in Memphis? It's still one of the top 5 cities in America where you're most likely to be murdered. That's how it was such a significant drop. They're like, it solved the problem. The murder is down in Memphis. Yeah, it's down so much you're still in the top 5. That shows you just how high the murder rate was in Memphis. And frankly, a lot of the local officials just gave up. This is the problem. This is the overarching problem for Democrats here. Too many Democrats have decided crime is just a way of life if you live in an urban area. Not only do they want you to not live in rural areas, they want you to move into the urban areas where they then tell you crime is a way of life. Crime is only a way of life if you choose for crime to be a way of life, and too many progressive politicians have decided crime is a way of life. But the president was very smart because Tennessee itself is a very red state. And just north of Memphis is Tipton County, where my family lives, and it's a pretty red part of the state. Memphis itself, very blue. Outside of Memphis, around Memphis, pretty red. Got a buddy of mine who lives down in Germantown, where all the wealthy Republicans live down there. It's where the Apple store is. They are very happy to have the National Guard coming into Memphis. I have a guy, a friend of mine, who lives in Memphis. He loves Memphis, loves Beale Street. Doesn't go to Beale Street very much anymore, says the criminal element, particularly when the sun goes down, has gotten too bad. But he lives in Memphis, has a condo in Memphis, sees the Mississippi River. Got a beautiful view. He can see an Egyptian pyramid, and he can see the Mississippi River. I mean, the people of Memphis have done pyramids better than the people in Egypt did pyramids. I mean, the Memphis pyramid has a Bass Pro Shop in it. Here's a headline this morning from Memphis, sent to me just now by my sister who lives there. From News Channel 3, WREG Memphis. A man was found shot to death behind an elementary school in the Hickory Hill area Friday morning, according to the Memphis Police Department. Officers say they responded to the 3500 block of Ridgeway Road, Wynn Ridge Elementary School, regarding a man down call at 7:14 a.m. The victim was found shot and pronounced dead at the scene. Dead at the scene in Memphis. This is the sort of thing they're dealing with. It is a third world hellhole in much of Memphis. My sister's listening right now. She and her husband were telling me a story. They've got a friend they go to church with. He's a police officer. He and his wife were riding to the airport. They were taking a trip, I think, to the Turks and Caicos. It was somewhere in the Caribbean. They had never taken a trip before out of the country like that to the Caribbean. They were hell-bent on going. He took days off. They're driving to the Memphis airport like 3 o'clock in the morning to catch a very early morning connection into Atlanta. They're at a stoplight. They're off the interstate. They're at a stoplight. A group of gang members come out of the bushes and open fire on their car, and he got shot in the arm. They call 911. The police scramble. It's an officer shooting. They patch him up. He still goes to the Caribbean. Still goes to. They take care of him at the scene. They patch him up. He's a police officer. They all knew him. He made it to the airport, changed his shirt, made it to the airport. But shot just for stopping at a stoplight at 3 o'clock in the morning in the wrong part of town. But you had to go through the wrong part of town to get to the Memphis airport. We've invaded Memphis. The president has sent in the National Guard. The locals, regardless of race, are happy. The only people who aren't happy are the progressive Democrats who have decided that crime is the price you pay for living in an urban area with a Whole Foods. As long as crime doesn't happen near the Whole Foods and the Apple store, and it happens mostly in black neighborhoods, the white progressives are fine. It's the black people who live in South Memphis who are the ones most afflicted with the crime, and they're the ones who would really appreciate it if something was done with the crime. But the good white progressives and the Democratic black politicians beholden to the white progressives say no. The president and the governor of Tennessee, Bill Lee, said yes, that people who live in urban areas should not be victims of crime just by living in urban areas. This is the governor of Tennessee talking to Fox News.
So federal law enforcement suddenly in Memphis. How do you feel about that?
You know, this is a generational opportunity we have. You're in Music City. You're in a very exciting city in Tennessee, but there's another great city, and it's Memphis.
Right.
And it's a world-class city, has a real crime problem. Thanks to President Trump and his vision for safe cities in America,
Right.
Memphis is about to be one of the safest cities in the country. We are very fortunate. We have the full complement of federal resources to make that city safe.
Right, and I'm sure Memphis has got a great police force, but suddenly you got all this federal stuff going on there. They made a bunch of arrests, including TDA.
And we've been working on this for a while. We've been working with President Trump's team for months. The FBI, Operation Viper, started a few months ago. This is a layering of those resources. DEA, U.S. Marshals, combined with the Memphis Police Department, Shelby County, and Tennessee Highway Patrol. So it's really exciting to think that a city that has been held back by crime for so long,
Right.
a great city that has a great future, but that's been held back for so long, is going to have the opportunity for Memphians have the opportunity to live safely again.
Democrats keep giving up on places like Memphis. Y'all, if you haven't been to Memphis, by the way, I've been there a number of times. The barbecue is incredible. First of all, the amount of hole in the wall barbecue places in Memphis is just, they're fantastic. Beale Street is great. The Pyramid it's actually kind of cool to see a Bass Pro Shop in a Pyramid. The riverfront there, the Mississippi, they've done a good job, but it's not a safe place. The people of Memphis want safety, but the politicians, the Democratic politicians, have given up. And I have a personal frustration, if I'm real honest with you, I have a personal frustration that a number of people continue to vote against their own interests, and particularly black voters in Memphis continue to vote for the Democratic politicians who've turned their city into a third world hellhole. But voting Democrat is so ingrained in the minds of a lot of black residents. It's one of the upshots of having Donald Trump, who is just such a change from the way Republican politicians have behaved in the past. He's suddenly shocked the consciousness of people. They're like, I think I could vote for this guy. And now he's making Memphis safe for the residents of Memphis. And the Democrats are screaming, but notice they're not screaming as much because it's a Republican state. And the Republicans have blessed the invasion of Memphis, as they should. The state of Tennessee welcomed this. And now Jeff Landry, the governor of Louisiana, ironically, my sister who lives in Tennessee is driving down to Louisiana to my parents. And the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, has invited the federal National Guard into New Orleans, a city that I dearly love, a city that I consider to be home in Baton Rouge. It is my old stomping grounds. I'm a native. And I would love to take my family to New Orleans, and it's just, frankly, not super safe to take your family to New Orleans right now. Got a couple of the guys who work with me have never been to New Orleans. My gosh, I can't tell you how much I'd love to take them to eat at Oscar's, go to the gumbo shop, go down, forget the French Quarter, go to Magazine Street. My kids grew up going to the New Orleans Zoo. It's the best zoo on the planet. And it's simply not a safe city. It's full of governmental corruption, and it is full of a group of Democrats who've just given up. They've given up trying to fix the city. Donald Trump hasn't given up on America, and he's working to improve the city. And he's working to make people safe. And I'm glad he's taken my advice. And by the way, I will take credit for this. I don't think it was a coincidence at all. And from what I know, it was not a coincidence that on the morning I wrote the president should invade Memphis and New Orleans, the president announced he would be invading Memphis and New Orleans. And I'm glad. And it's time. Show black voters and Hispanic voters who live in urban areas filled with crime that Republican policies can make them and their families safe at night, so they're not serenaded to drive-by shootings overnight. And they can walk down their street and not be scared of getting shot. And they can open their businesses and not be afraid of getting robbed. They've arrested almost 100 people so far in Memphis. They've arrested gangbangers from Venezuela. They've arrested pedophiles and child rapists and child pornographers. They've arrested drug dealers. Almost 100 people in 3 days. And the people of Memphis are starting to realize they might be safe thanks to Donald Trump and Bill Lee. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would love to have you. Let's go back to the phones. Linda, you're going to be up next on the show. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Going back to the Trump fighting cartel topic. Are the lefties forgetting that at one point, 1916, the U.S. invaded Mexico in pursuit of Santa Anna? My grandfather actually fought with Pershing in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So it's been done.
It has been. Now, so here's the thing, and what makes this so different is that there's a difference between invading a national territory over a government versus taking on a drug cartel that's a non-governmental entity. And this, by the way, gives the president some leeway, because if the drug cartels were a governmental entity, and by the way, I would argue they actually are in Mexico, that they are a proxy for the Mexican government's a proxy for the drug cartels, it would make it easier for Congress to intervene and stop the president if he was going to war with another nation without Congress's permission. But because he's actually taking on the drug cartels and using the military to do it to protect the borders of the United States, it actually makes it a little more difficult for Congress to intervene. And I'm totally okay with that. They're completely flustered, particularly the Democrats. And this, again, is the thing that blows my mind. It's like dealing with the drug cartels. Or dealing with the gangbangers in Memphis and places. How are you, the Democrats, so incensed about what the president is doing as opposed to standing with him to fight for the American people against the gangbangers and the drug cartels and the like? It's just crazy. By the way, so my sister, as I mentioned, in Memphis, and she's been listening, and she says since Monday now, there have been 153 arrests, 5 of them gangbangers, 48 guns have been seized, 5 missing children have been arrested. A Trinidad gang member has been found in Memphis. And she also notes that when they were driving to my parents yesterday, they never drive through Memphis. That's how bad it is. They drove through Memphis and said everybody was doing the speed limit. There were police everywhere. Law enforcement was fully engaged with the National Guard. Everybody did the speed limit, and traffic was great. See? Real world measurable impact. All right. I got to tell you about the Eden Pure thunderstorm. I mentioned my friend yesterday, Aaron, who got one and said she had stuff burning in the oven and it was on self-cleaning mode and was stunned by how quickly the Eden Pure actually started cleaning up the air. And it does work great. So it generates ozone. Ozone, you can go to your big box hardware store, go to a Home Depot, go to Lowe's somewhere. You can buy ozone air cleaners, or you can just get the Eden Pure thunderstorm because you get 3 of them. They're very small and portable. You get them for less than $200. You save $200. You go to EdenPureDeals.com and you put on discount code ERIC3, ERICK3, right on the website, EdenPureDeals.com, discount code ERIC3. You get 3 of them, and they just eliminate odors. They generate ozone and they wipe out odors. No odor can stand up to it. Smoking odors from someone smoked in the rental car before you, or a hotel room, or a cigar on your back porch, or you fried shrimp in the kitchen and you don't want your wife to know. Might have done that one too. You go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll get 3 of them, save $200. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be delighted to have you. It's an open line Friday. Don't forget to text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Get the live stream, the show notes, the podcast, everything else you need. I want to go to Kevin. You're going to be up next. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, Mr. Eric, this is Kevin. This is Central Florida. How are you doing today, sir?
Great.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, a little nervous, so please bear with me, okay?
All righty.
In the state of Florida, they just passed an open carry, and I know the state of Georgia also has that. So I wanted to get your thoughts as far as personal and being professional as an attorney, your thoughts about open carry and also red laws, too, as well.
Okay. So I'm not opposed to open carry laws, and you know, in Georgia now we've got de facto concealed carry. Although if you want a reciprocity, you still got to get your concealed carry permit, and I forgot and let mine lapse. So I'm not opposed to open carry, but I have a problem with open carry. And this sometimes makes people very sensitive. And I want to be very nuanced in what I say, Kevin. I don't have a problem with you carrying your gun openly. I think you should know that when the madman comes in, you're going to be the first person he shoots because he's going to see you armed and take you out. I think concealed carry is a better option than open carry for, one, people's peace of mind. Guns still make people, even in the South, can make people a little nervous. In Texas, very famously, there have been a number of people who have strapped on their ARs to go into Target and Walmart, a show of force that I got my right, I can do it. You know, just because you have a right to do something doesn't mean you should be obnoxious about it. There are people who get scared by guns. And you doing that, strapping on your AR because you got an open carry right, I personally think you do more harm than good to the Second Amendment cause because you think you're exercising your right and everybody else says, well, there's a creepy weirdo who thinks he needs an AR-15 strapped to himself when he goes into his local convenience store. I know. I really don't have a problem with, like, if you got a Glock on a holster or something, people are going to think you're law enforcement anyway. I do think open carry makes you more of a target than concealed carry. I think concealed carry allows you to not cause anxiety on people who are hesitant of guns while still keeping yourself safe. And I think that's the win-win proposition. That's just me. Now, I know there are people, it's like the absolutists in abortion. I think we should ban all abortion everywhere. But I know people, in fact, we've got pro-life groups in the state of Georgia that opposed the 7-week fetal heartbeat ban in the state of Georgia. That's right. There were pro-life groups in the state of Georgia that refused to support the fetal heartbeat ban in the state of Georgia. There are national pro-life groups that when the federal government passed a late-term abortion law, they actively opposed the late-term abortion law. I personally think they're useful idiots of the abortion movement. Why did they oppose it? Because it didn't ban all abortions. There are absolutists out there in the pro-life movement who believe that unless your law bans every single abortion, they will oppose your law. They don't believe in incrementalism. They don't care about the babies saved by the law because there are babies killed by the law. So God forbid we actually save lives if we can't save every life. And there are absolutists on gun laws who believe that I've got to strap every gun I own to my body when I go in person to exercise my Second Amendment right so that you know that I believe in the Second Amendment and I'm defending the Second Amendment by being the weirdo in the grocery store that has 5 guns publicly strapped to me that gets shot first by the madman who comes in and sees me with all the guns, as opposed to just putting them discreetly on your person where nobody knows you've got 10 guns and a Bowie knife. That's just me. I have a big problem with a lot of the red flag laws as written because of a lot of the way progressive states in particular have written the red flag laws. They write them in such a way that a mere accusation can deprive someone of their gun rights. And I think that's unconstitutional and you need due process. I'm not opposed to taking guns from people who have been adjudicated to be mentally ill. But I know of circumstances where people going through messy divorces have made claims on the other side, and they do it not because it's a legitimate claim, but because they want to punish the other side because they hate them, and red flag laws come into play there. And I'm really opposed to very broad red flag laws. I'm not opposed to taking guns from someone adjudicated as mentally unstable. We got to deal with the mental health problem in this country. But I am deeply opposed to making it easy to take away someone's gun through just the mere accusation of mental instability. I'm a proponent of the Second Amendment. I own very many guns. My wife has more than me. We just got invited by a very nice gentleman to go to his farm to practice shooting, where we haven't been to the gun range. Well, we joined a gun range. Ironically, we haven't been since we joined almost a year ago now. Just two other stuff. But I honestly think that every teacher in the country who wants to have a concealed carry permit and concealed carry a gun in their school should be allowed to do it as long as they're trained. I honestly, y'all, my position, and I'm very sensitive here, and I'm trying to be diplomatic because I know there are people listening in Parkland, near the Parkland High School, and there are people listening in Newtown, Connecticut to me right now, and they've had terrible, terrible, terrible situations with mass shootings, among other things. And I know there are a lot of people whose families have suffered because of gun crime, and they want to take guns away. And I understand their concerns. But we also have a Second Amendment in this country. And the Second Amendment means we should think differently about guns than countries that have done gun confiscations. Canada is going through a gun buyback right now, a forcible gun buyback, where if you turn your gun in now, you might get paid for it. And if you don't turn your gun in now, later you're going to be forced to turn your gun in and you're not going to get paid for it. They're just going to take it or throw you in jail. I myself think that we should have more guns instead of less. We should think differently from other countries. We're not going to be able to do gun buybacks in this country and confiscations. So I think if every teacher in your local elementary, middle, or high school, or some of them, or the principal, they want to be armed and carry a concealed weapon, we should allow them to do so, provided they go through a training process. And those are going to be the people who save the kids of the school, as opposed to locking the kids in the classroom, throwing their body against the door, and hoping the shooter chooses not to come in while they're waiting for the police to show up. I know a guy, he's not a friend of mine. We interact some online, but his kid goes to a Jewish school outside of Dallas, Texas. And he and several of the other fathers, they do concealed carry, and they go to the school when the kids are outside, and they stand on the playground, and they provide the security. It's the parents themselves that do it. I know of a school near me where they have a gun procedure where multiple faculty members are armed during the day. You won't know which faculty members are armed, and they rotate who's armed. And parents who wish to carry on campus are perfectly allowed to carry on campus. If it makes them feel safe to have their kids in that school safe where there are well-armed people in case a shooter shows up, I think it's a great idea. Now, that is completely off topic from everything I was going to go to, but I'm happy to answer the question. Particularly, the Supreme Court, by the way, is taking another Second Amendment case this year in the United States Supreme Court. This is actually a pretty significant gun case that the Supreme Court is going to take. It is Wohlford versus Lopez. Wohlford versus Lopez is a Hawaii law that bans the possession of handguns on private property unless the property owner has consented. You get that? The Hawaii law bars people from carrying guns in various places open to the public, including beaches, parks, bars, and restaurants that serve alcohol. And in other commercial establishments like stores, the law says people can carry guns only with the permission of the property owner. I think they personally should strike this case down. If I want to go to a park and have my gun as a concealed carry on me, I should be allowed to do that. Also, I think that if I want to go into a supermarket and I have a concealed carry gun, I should be allowed to do that because and I know I'm better able to protect myself and those around me than the obese mall cop who is asleep there by the front door when you come into the store. Supreme Court's going to weigh in on this, though, this year, and I hope it goes well for the Second Amendment. I'm a little bit apprehensive, though. I don't think this Supreme Court is as pro-Second Amendment as I wish it was, even with the conservatives in charge. Now, one more call here before I go to break. Ken, you've been waiting patiently. Thanks for being patient. How are you?
I'm doing great. About the war on drugs, there are countries over in the Middle East and the Far East that if you bring drugs into their country, if you traffic them in, you get a capital sentence. You get hung. And I don't think that's a bad idea.
I have to correct you there, Ken. You get hanged.
Hanged, okay.
Sorry, long-time pet peeve because I had a very angry Greek third-grade teacher who insisted we say hanged.
Well, I think if we did that and we enforced that, I think that might cut down on the drug trafficking.
Look, I got to tell you, I don't disagree with you. The problem, unfortunately, is the United States Supreme Court disagrees with us. The Supreme Court has ruled that you can only use the death penalty for capital offenses, which in that case, the Supreme Court says is murder. I think that we should be executing child abusers and the drug cartel members. I think we should expand the death penalty, not restrict the death penalty. I got an issue with the Pope the other day who said you can't really be pro-life if you oppose abortion but support the death penalty. God Almighty himself in Genesis 9 instituted the death penalty and told Noah when he came off the ark, not before he went on, but when he came off, that if a human being kills another human being, you're to kill that human being because they've devalued life. And I don't think it's a coincidence in the world today that every single country that has gotten rid of the death penalty has embraced abortion and euthanasia, because when you devalue life such that you're not willing to defend it with the death penalty, you devalue other life and say, we'll just tickle the guy who killed you, but we'll let you execute yourself. I don't think it's a coincidence, by the way. I absolutely don't think it's a coincidence that as countries have abandoned what God commanded in Genesis 9, execute those who murder, they now allow you to execute yourself and your baby. Every single country that has gotten rid of the death penalty has expanded assisted suicide and abortion, because they actually have devalued life. If you value life, you do what God said, and you eliminate from the gene pool the people who devalue life. But because we no longer eliminate from the gene pool the people who devalue life, society itself has begun to devalue life. I think we should have the death penalty for murders. I think we should have the death penalties for child rape. I think we should have the death penalty for extreme child pornography. I think we should have the death penalty for the major drug cartel dealers. I'm not talking about your petty little dealer you buy your weed from, but the guys who are bringing the fentanyl into the country and killing Americans. We should execute those people. I think we should absolutely expand the death penalty in this country. Absolutely should. And I think the states that haven't, the blue states that have restricted it or banned it, I think those are the ones where we're dealing with the societal fallout of a group of people who have completely devalued life in this country. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be happy to have you. Let me go to Jim calling from Indiana. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon. I agree with your death penalty deal with the caveat that they should have 5 years to appeal to prove their innocence. None of this 30, 40 years on a death row with 3 hots in a cot.
Look,
but that being said, yeah, we are human. We will make the occasional mistake and convict the wrong person, but none of this 30, 40 years and 3 hots in a cot.
And you know, I got to say, DNA evidence has gotten so good. Even if we did further restrictions and say, I mean, if there's DNA evidence, you got to tie it to the killer. Okay, but yeah, I mean, there's in fact, when you get the DNA evidence like that, let's not wait forever to kill these people. And the federal government, by the way, has been able to speed this stuff up. It's the states where it drags out forever and forever and forever. And if we need to put more restrictions on DNA evidence and things like that for the death penalty, okay. But I'm not opposed to the death penalty. And I've got some friends of mine who have sincere beliefs that the government screws stuff up and we shouldn't take the chance. I'm like, nah, God said execute the murderers, and we should do a good job of trying to find the murderers and executing them. And if we have juries and we have processes, and yes, there have been people in the past who have been railroaded. I think we're largely beyond that as a country now. And I just execute the murderers, but also the child rapists and the drug cartels. I just there's and the child the major child pornographers and yeah, we should be executing more people, not less people. I just think we as a society we're one of the reasons we're dealing with what we're dealing with is we do not have a good political theology of sin. And I'm not talking religious theology of sin. I'm talking in politics. We tend to treat prison as a way to rehabilitate people. Some people, frankly, need killing, is the way I was raised. And I think the really bad people out there, the serial killers and the like, why are we leaving these people on death row for 30 or 40 years at taxpayer expense? Nope. It's time to execute them. And the coddling of these people by the state is just, it's a bridge too far for me. Interestingly enough, Amy Coney Barrett was given a speech the other day. She's got her new book out. She was talking about the death penalty, where she says she is she's Catholic and personally opposed to the death penalty. But it's not her job to impose her personal beliefs. The government of the United States has long had the death penalty, and it should be up to the government of the United States, not her, what to do with it. It's like, that is a judicial philosophy I get behind. Thank you very much. All right, we got to move on. But before we do, I got to tell you about Hillsdale College. They would love to give you one of their free courses. They have a massive array of classes that you can take, from the founding of the Roman Republic to the founding of the American Republic to C.S. Lewis to Shakespeare and so much more. You go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com today. And you sign up. You get a certificate of completion when you're done. You don't pay a penny. Every class is 30 minutes by video. They're engaging. They're informative. Depending on which class you take is the number of episodes, determines the number of episodes. I can't tell you how great they are. The C.S. Lewis one, it did my heart good to take that one. I'm a big C.S. Lewis fan. Go to ericforhillsdale.com today, E-R-I-C-K. ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up today with Hillsdale College and take their great classes and improve your mind. When we come back, there's a scandal in Virginia. The Democrats put up a big progressive to run for attorney general. Turns out he has been gaming the system, and now turns out he might be a little violent as well. Got that story when we come back.